I am officially renaming Kansas City to Metropolis because the guy in charge is the man of steel. Tonight, live on Locked On Chiefs.
From the land of the free and the home of the Chiefs, this is the Locked On. From the land of the free and the home of the Chiefs, this is the Locked On Chiefs podcast.
And that's the way things go when you're live, folks. Welcome in. The preseason is officially wrapped, and now comes the hard part. Welcome in tonight with Matt Derrick, live from the stadium. We're brought to you today by Gametime. So make sure you download the app, you use our code LOCKEDONNFL, and you're going to get $20 off of your first purchase. Terms do apply. If you are ready for this preseason to be done, congratulations, you win. Chris Clark is here, the founder, writer, master, KC Chiefs Corner. He's going to run it all down. He even has a piece out already about Creed Humphrey, who we're going to talk about later in the show. Matt Derrick is going to give you all the insights from this game and probably talk me down off of a few ledges. That's going to be fine. Difficult decisions are coming around, and we're going to talk about that in the second segment. But we start tonight that finally we got through the preseason and it's over. Unfortunately, it was not the way that I wanted it to go, Matt. Update from Andy Reid just a little bit ago. Wanya Morris does have the same knee that got injured tonight. How worried should I be?
I don't think you should be very worried. I mean, he came out of the game, but he did go to the locker room, came over, got an examination on the medical table from the athletic trainers. He wasn't going to go back into a preseason game. He stayed out there on the field, didn't go back to the locker room. Andy Reid reported that it was just, again, tweaking that knee that has had the bone bruise. So not a new injury. It's just a continuation of the same thing that he's been dealing with. And as Andy Reid said, how do you fix it? Rest. He needs rest, and he's going to get 2 weeks of rest. So that's going to be good news for the Chiefs going forward.
Best news about it to me is he's not the starting left tackle, and that's not a shot at him. It's just that he's not. So you don't have to worry about him trying to get healthy before the starting preseason game. He is a backup and an important one for sure. But they're healthy going in with everybody except for maybe Brown, it looks like, probably.
Yeah, really, they've come out of the preseason for the most part in really good shape. And you're right. I mean, Hollywood is really the only injury to speak of. Even tonight, the guys that looked like they got dinged up, I think it was just a cramp for Jalen Watson when he came out. Curtis Jacobs didn't get what that injury was, but he came back into the game. So knock on wood. I mean, this is, I feel like, the healthiest that the Chiefs have been able to come out of a preseason in a long time. There's just not any really serious long-term injuries that this team is dealing with.
I want to see a mystery Curtis Jacobs injury, re-aggravation of the injury he got in the game. Just going to throw that out there for Brett Veach.
Hey, you never know what can happen between now and Tuesday. It's a dangerous, dangerous time out there.
Well, and that's the biggest point, Matt. The preseason games have ended, but now we wait, and there's going to be decisions. That's coming up later in the show, folks. A couple of things out of the way, but this was difficult, I think, a game to gauge. We talked about it pregame. To make an impact on your status in this game was pretty dang tough. Did anyone stand out to you that improved their stock in this ball game in the eyes of the coaching staff?
I mean, I think that the guys that, for the most part, improved their stock were the guys that were in pretty good shape as it was. I mean, if you didn't have Carson Steele on your 53-player roster before, you better have him here now. That was just another really solid performance from him. Obviously, a great run. And I talked to him a little bit after the game about that run. Getting the touchdown taken off the board and going back out there. And he was like, yeah, I mean, he's like, I was winded, I was tired, but there's no way I wasn't staying out there to get that touchdown and get the run into the end zone. So he definitely wanted that score. In both great night, that's something that he's really, I think, felt like struggled during preseason in particular, but even in camp, I think he had a rough camp at times. Really good night tonight. I don't think it's enough to unseat Chris Oladokun, but enough maybe to let the coaches look at the film and maybe give themselves some thoughts. I still think there's a lot of the same issues that we've seen with this team throughout the preseason. Some maybe challenges in the defense as far as the second and the third team goes when it comes to tackling. Certainly we saw the Bears kind of running free more than a couple of times tonight. And the offensive line, I mean, I think that second and third team offensive line had some struggles once again, and that's kind of once again been the common story of the preseason. So the one name that I think obviously is the most perplexing, that's just going to struggle with us all over the next few days, is Kadarius Toney. I mean, had a decent night in his limited playing time and comes up with a couple of really nice catches. It could have had a really big catch that good pass breakup, but maybe your receiver come back and fight for the ball a little bit. You know, we could have gotten it, but that's what you live with Kadarius Toney. I mean, was tonight the Kadarius Toney experience in 34 snaps? I don't know what it was. That was the Kadarius Toney experience tonight in full effect.
Yeah, I was going to say that exact thing, Matt. You look at what he did tonight. Those two first catches early on in the game looked great. And then he has that opportunity to have this huge catch, maybe even a touchdown if he just moves up for the ball. And he stands there and he waits for it. And you step in and you make the catch, and it's still a big play regardless of whether or not it's a touchdown. It's tough. I don't know what else to say. And then, there's another scenario where you look at another wide receiver that is also on the bubble, in Justin Ross, who made them burn a timeout tonight. I mean, it was awfully clear that he did not know where he was supposed to be lining up. Nicole Hardman was trying to tell him to move over to the other side, and didn't happen.
That's really the Justin Ross experience in one half. I mean,
more of the same.
Really nice catch along the sideline. Great sideline route. Can't always find the right spot on the field. So, yeah.
Ran a slant successfully tonight, too. I was happy to see that. And
there you go.
Shout out to
branching out a little bit.
Adrian Colbert. Yeah, absolutely. Rounded out. Shout out to our guy, Adrian Colbert. Now a Bear, but before he was drafted, the last show that he did before the draft was us. We had a great time with him like 17 years ago or whatever it was. So good for him. Now, all of these things go into decisions are a little bit tougher, especially given the wide receiver play tonight. What comes next? That's on the backside of this. This show is brought to you by BetterHelp. With your schedule right now, the kids' activities, back to school, everything going on, the big work projects, and everything else in your life, it's easy to let your priorities slip. Even when you know what makes you happy and that you want to prioritize, it's hard to make it happen sometimes. When you feel like you don't have any time for yourself, it's time to make that happen. Therapy can help you with that. If you are thinking about starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's certainly geared toward everything that you're looking for, entirely online, suited to your schedule, and can be flexible to match what you need. You just fill out a questionnaire, you get matched with an actual therapist. And if not, if you don't gel or you want to switch therapists at any time, you can do that free of charge. Never skip another therapy day with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/lockedon. You're going to get 10% off of your first month. That's BetterHelp.com/lockedon. If you want to get everything that you need, make sure you like and sub to this channel here on YouTube, get on Spotify, get on Apple Podcasts, because we're free and available 5 days a week, plus, and always for free. And if you need that fantasy advice, get with Vinny Iyer on the Locked On Fantasy Football Show. That is here also, your team every single day on the Locked On Podcast Network. All of this play today is just the icing, the last thin layer on the top of the cake, Matt. A lot of these decisions or decision points have already been made. With those kind of standout plays, it comes down to the corners, in my opinion, the wide receiver group here. I found it very interesting that I think we got more information about the wide receivers before the game than we did during the game, when Andy made the announcement that, hey, this group of players isn't going to play, and Sky Moore is one of them, yet he got a couple of kick returns. What did you make of the night for Moore?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's obviously one of the things is that they want to just get him some touches at the return position, because who are going to be your returners? I mean, the other day when we asked Dave Tobe about who his returners were going to be, he was kind of stuck, because it's been pretty clear his two favorite returners during the preseason and during training camp have been Nico Armigio and Louis Rees-Zammit. I don't think that either one of those two are making the 53. I mean, Tobe said he's going to pound the table for Nico Remigio, but if you look at the work that he's getting, you look at where he is on the depth chart, it's really hard. And I mean, and especially because Nico, they haven't really been getting him into any other special teams roles other than return. So it's not like he's, playing on kick teams or kick cover teams, anything of that nature. He's just a return guy. And that makes it difficult. If he's only, and I think he had one snap in the first half, maybe, and wasn't getting a ton of work in the second half. I mean, you could certainly make the case if I want to spin the conspiracy theory that the Chiefs are just trying to hide him and protect him. I think it would be more likely that they're trying to hide and protect him for the practice squad. But getting Sky those reps, I mean, I think you're doing that because he and McCole Hardman might be your kick returners going into the season. Who else is that conversation? I mean, Deneric Prince and Carson Steele are both in there. I think there's a chance that only one of those guys are going to be on the active roster. I mean, is Deneric Prince going to make it too? I don't know now, because if the Chiefs keep three running backs, we know one's Isaiah Pacheco. I'm pretty confident and can tell you Carson Steele is going to be another one. Who's the third? Clyde Edwards-Helaire did not play tonight. He practiced this week. I mean, he is in theory healthy. I don't think he would have played anyway since he only came back for a couple of practices. But the Chiefs have continued to act like Clyde's a part of this 53. So I think he's your three running backs. And does that mean Deneric Prince is on the outside? If he is, it means you need somebody else to return kicks with McCole. And who is that? Probably Sky Moore.
It's going to be tough. You talk about wide receiver, you talk about corner. There are a lot of stuff, a lot of questions made at corner. Kelvin Joseph had a rough night, 2 holds early on. But I think the other thing, and the one that I'm really curious to get your opinion on, Matt, is what do you think they're going to do at offensive line? Because you start looking at a guy like Lucas Niang, who looks like he's their 4th tackle right now. Are they going to keep 4 tackles? If they do, is he really their 4th? Because what you saw tonight didn't really look great.
Well, I mean, it has become, I think, a question maybe at a couple of those spots, if not him, then who? Because I don't think that there's a ready answer behind Lucas Niang. I mean, is the conversation that was kind of going on here at Arrowhead tonight was, if Wanye's ding more than necessary, can you keep an Ethan Driscoll on the 53? And I mean, and Ethan Driscoll is a nice candidate, but I think that the general consensus on him that he's a technically very gifted offensive lineman who's got a lot of skill and no power behind it, and just needs a year of strengthening, needs a year of weight program. And maybe it's going to be a different conversation next year, but he needs that seasoning. He's not necessarily ready. Niang had an up and down season. I don't think there's any question to doubt it. Question is, obviously I think you're more comfortable if he's your second backup tackle. If Wanya is there and you're feeling okay with him as your swing guy, and Niang is the 4th player, and that's in that rotation, I think you're feeling a little bit better. But I don't think there's. I think the really only question for the Chiefs as far as the offensive line goes is just how deep do they go? Do they keep a 10th offensive lineman? The cutoff line is kind of C.J. Hansen. If they keep 10, I think C.J. Hansen's on this roster, and along with Hunter Norzad and Mike Caliendo as well. I just don't think it goes any deeper than that. So, and maybe that's an area where the Chiefs do look at the waiver wire, and they do see what else is out there. That's obviously a tough first solution for them. That's going to be the same answer and same conversation, corner and defensive end, because they're 32nd in line on the waiver wire. It's going to be really hard to get somebody. If there's a player you want that another team's going to waive, probably going to have to make a trade.
Especially at O-line.
It's a good thing that you have a nice long deadline at this point. So take advantage of that. I think the D-line was interesting to me. Derek Nottingham played a ton of snaps for this team on the 3rd preseason game. I actually felt like he looked like he was in pretty good shape for not having any action yet. So I was a little surprised he went that deep. I have to admit my heart skipped a beat when Jalen Watson went down because, as you said, Chris, Kelvin Joseph, rough start. I think he recovered some, but I want both your opinions. But starting with Matt, did my guy CRW make this roster tonight?
I think that's a tough one to climb over. I mean, and that's a good question because at that safety spot, I mean, you've got 4 spots pretty nailed up. The question is going to be, hey, if the Chiefs do keep 5 safeties, who is the 5th safety? And I mean, Deion Bush on every single special team. I don't know. I mean, last year he was on the practice squad most of the season. They activated him a few times, activated the postseason as well. Could that be the same role? I don't know, but the fact that I see him on every single special teams unit is really suggesting to me, especially when I look at that and I'm like, okay, who's Deion Bush out there with? He's out there with a bunch of other guys who are on the 53. So where does he fit in? I think Chris Rowan, I think is the Chiefs would absolutely be ecstatic if they can make sure that they get him to the practice squad. You know, he is, even though he's been playing safety for the Chiefs, he was college corner, so he's got some flexibility. It's exactly what the Chiefs want. But, you know, the really interesting thing is just the late development camp and, you know, who guys are. I mean, you know, everything that the Chiefs have shown us this week, including tonight, is Keith Taylor has apparently made this roster. I mean, he's apparently going to be the number 5 guy. I mean, didn't play tonight. I mean, that looks like he's locked it up. Question then is going to be, do they keep a 6th corner? Is it a 5th safety? And I increasingly, I mean, I'm going to have my 53 out here. Well, it'll be after midnight, but when it comes out, but so if you get to see it Friday morning, I'll be honest, I'm probably gonna have Deion Bush on there and not have a Chris Roland Wallace or a sixth corner on there.
Well, Keith Taylor was playing in the 4th quarter though, so I don't know. I struggle with Taylor just because of what he looked like in preseason game number 2. So we'll see whether or not, and maybe he is the 5th guy. But he was out there in the 4th quarter. I remember seeing him on a couple of those plays. But you look at this roster and you look at the corner position. We thought they're going to be keeping 6 all this time. Chris Wallace, I think the big caveat there with him is he's played slot corner and he's played safety. So can he fill that role and be the 6th guy? I don't know. But you're right. Deion Bush has been playing special teams, and that usually gets you on the roster. And the other reality is that Jaden Hicks is probably going to be playing so much it's not really – you're almost going to have 3 starting safeties most of the season for a lot of your plays. So, maybe having 5 safeties is a need.
One of those is going to be really interesting because Justin Reed hasn't played yet. And next year's a question mark. His teammate and classmate and guy that we have to look to lead this class just got paid. What does it look like for Creed Humphrey? And what does that mean for the other free agents coming up next? When you're hiring for a small business, you want to find the quality professionals with the right fit for the right role. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. It has the tools to help you find the right professionals for your team. I'm always looking at LinkedIn. It isn't just a job board. LinkedIn helps you find professionals you can't find anywhere else. Even those who aren't actively looking or searching for a new job might be open to the perfect role. In a given month, over 70% of LinkedIn users don't visit other leading job sites. So if you're not looking on LinkedIn, you're looking in the wrong place. On LinkedIn, 86% of small businesses get qualified candidates within 24 hours. Hire professionals like a professional on LinkedIn. It goes down the easiest way to post your job for free is on linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL to post your job for free. Terms and conditions do apply. If you want everything that you need for the NFL, make sure you check out Locked On NFL today. It is 24/7 available here on YouTube and on Amazon Fire TV. All of our NFL shows every day brought to you by the Locked On Podcast Network. Matt, just before kickoff, as I was sitting down to my last bite of pizza, this comes across the news, and we've been talking about it. It's been rumored for weeks. Creed Humphrey becomes the highest paid center, not by a little bit, but by a gross margin. I was caught off guard. I figured this was something maybe next week, maybe the week after, before the regular season. What was your reaction to the number and the way that it came down?
Yeah, I mean, I was kind of surprised that they got together on that number. I mean, there's obviously been a lot of conjecture out there. Hey, the Chiefs don't pay centers. Well, it's just been a matter of the right center at the right price. And I wasn't sure it was going to get done as quickly as it did because, the word was early on that during training camp was that Creed wanted to be paid like a guard and not center. And, could the Chiefs do that? And then the question was, does he want to be paid like the highest paid guard, or does he want to be paid just like one of the top 10 guard? Well, it turned out he was okay with top 10 guard money. This deal is almost identical to the one that Quinn Myers signed with Denver. He's the 6th highest paid guard. There's a way you could spin it that, I think he's matched Landon Dickerson as far as guaranteed money. So, that would make him the number 3 guard on that board. But this, obviously puts him in, that category that, it's not so much about him being the highest paid center, but really making him the top 5 interior lineman period when you bring guards in and the guard equation. And that's what Creed wanted to be paid. And the Chiefs were okay with that. And, I think, honestly, at 18, million per, close to, is bargain for Creed Humphrey? It actually might be. We're going to see what happens with the center market right now. But hey, when you think in that equation, and maybe Creed's the difference maker. Maybe he's the one that you do put in that category because, I don't think there's any doubt with Jason Kelsey, going by the side. Humphrey, if he's healthy, might be your all-pro first-team center for the next 8 years. That's just kind of guy he is. So I was a little surprised that it just got done. Like you said, right? I think just the timing of it getting done so quickly, because it seemed like there was a possibility that these two sides were further apart than we thought. But at the price point, it makes sense for both sides. It's not top end of the market for a guard that would have been prohibitive for a center. But when you talk about Creed Humphrey, is he as a good and as equivalent as important to you as a top 10 guard in the NFL? Absolutely. So we'll see what it does for the rest of the guard market or the rest of the center market. There's going to be a lot of centers that are going to be probably asking for pay raises tomorrow, but that's not the Chiefs' problems because they got their guy tied up for the next 4 seasons. And let's face it, that's going to take Creed through age 29, and that's a magic number for the Chiefs. So, that's when you can start thinking about, do you want to pay your 30-year-old center? Well, Chiefs don't have to worry about that for a few years.
$4.5 million a year more than the next highest paid center. That's what they paid Creed Humphrey. I have no problem with it. Matt, I completely agree with you. I think he's just as valuable as one of your other guards that you're looking at. So I have no problem with what they gave him as his contract. What I have a question about is, does he take this kind of money because he's trying to leave money on the table for his partner to his right side to stay in Kansas City? Because to me, you don't take that kind of money and not get paid. If you look at yourself as one of the top interior offensive linemen in the NFL, regardless of position, whether it's guard or center, you're not going to take a top 10 contract when you think you're probably the best. And I think Creed has a case to say he is probably one of the best NFL players at that interior position. So to me, I think that you're looking at a situation where he's trying to leave money on the bone for Smith. The other thing that I would say is it's really interesting, and I went and looked at this, and Justin, to answer your question, Jason Kelsey's contract last year was only $14.5 million on the salary cap, so it's even over that. But when I looked at this contract, when I went back and I looked at some of the centers, because I do have an article out on this on Chiefs Corner already, I think that they probably got close to $20 million in signing bonus. If that's the case, based on the way the Chiefs do contracts, his base salary is going to go down to about $1.1 million. He'll have a leftover proration from his original signing bonus of about $350,000, and his complete cap space could stay almost identical to what it is currently in 2024. That gives the Chiefs so much flexibility to be able to do things. And that's one of the great things, because he had a cap number. His base salary is almost $5 million. They'll drop that down to 1.1 because they're going to give him a signing bonus. He's not going to care. So to me, this is a situation where I think that it's possible that they're trying to get this done so they can maybe get Smith done. And if Creed is going to take money where it's not top of market, if Smith wants to stay here, he would take a similar deal. That's the big question. Does he want to stay here, or does he want to chase top of market money?
Yeah, and you do touch on one thing that that the team defenders will say is that, hey, you know what, isn't 18 million per, because it's really a 5-year deal, including the last year of the rookie contract, and so therefore, hey, when you bring it down, it brings down the average. I'm still going to be, it's a new money. If it's 72 million in money, new money for 4 new years, it's 18 million per. I don't care what has happened in year one. That's just that's the new money that matters, and then 50 million guarantee that matters. That's the other part of the equation. Is this there's a way that this is just a 3-year deal for $17 million. I don't think that's the way it's going to play, but it's kind of there.
So the other thing on the $50 million guaranteed, that's likely injury. So my guess is his total guarantees will be about $33 million. If you look at the Lloyd Cushenberry deal, which is what I was kind of comparing it to, he got something like $42 million. I think got 28. So that's about 66% is full guarantee. I would expect Creed is probably going to be around that, maybe closer to 70, since it's a even bigger deal. We'll see, but that would be my guess. Is you're looking at about 33 million. So we'll see. Lots of deal points we need to know. Sorry.
Yeah, and as far as how it impacts Trey, I mean, there's two ways to look at it. I mean, one, Creed is, I think everybody acknowledges, the best interior lineman on the Chiefs right now. So, hey, can you make the argument that Trey Smith should be making less money than Creed Humphrey? Or if they gave them twin deals, I mean, if you were paying Trey Smith $18 million per, would that be enough to make Trey happy? And obviously it would make him one of the top 6 paid guards in the league. I mean, that would be a decent deal. But the tricky thing is that if you're Trey Smith and you play out this year and you're healthy and you're a free agent next March, look at the free agent market. Trey Smith's going to be the best one out there. He's got to. I mean, if he's healthy next March and has come through a good season and has played as the way he has the last couple of years, or willing for him to improve, becomes a Pro Bowl, All-Pro player and gets those recognitions. He's not going to be an $18 million player next March. He's going to be a $22 million player next March, and that's the thing. I mean, it's the open market. I mean, he is the best guard, and right now it looks like, barring anything that changes, he's going to be the best guard on the market next March. He's going to get paid if he's healthy.
Yeah. So bottom line it, Matt, do they get that done before this season? Try to get it out of the way.
That's what I would try and do. I mean, and Nick Bolton injury obviously complicates things a little bit. I mean, you're certainly, there's a little bit of heartburn if you're trying to get a deal done with a player who's injured. That's not exactly the ideal. But at the same time, if you let either one of those guys, you let Nick Bolton or Trey Smith play out their last contract and they reach free agency, there's always a chance that there's more money out there. Maybe the injury situation for Nick Bolton, maybe that makes him more willing to a team-friendly deal. But what is a team-friendly deal? Is that $12 million? Is it $13 million? If Nick Bolton goes out and has a really good year, is he a $15 million player? I mean, he might think that in his mind. His agent may believe that. So, and maybe on the free agent market, maybe he is. Remember, with both of these players, franchise tag is not really part of the equation because there's not a franchise tag for middle linebackers. There's a franchise tag for linebackers, and it's dominated by 3-4 outside linebackers who are edge rushers. And so tag, $24 million? And the same thing with offensive line. There's no interior, there's no guard, there's no center franchise tag. It's offensive line. Franchise tag is basically left tackle money. Well, you're not going to franchise tag either one of these guys for left tackle money. So, the franchise tag really isn't going to come into the equation in either one of these situations. That's kind of good news for the Chiefs. That's not going to be leverage against them. But it also means they don't have that weapon at their disposal. They can't keep these guys under control.
So the interesting thing to me, sorry. I just was going to say the interesting thing to me is this is going to come down to, does Trey Smith want to continue to play next to Creed Humphrey, and does he want to continue to chase rings with Patrick Mahomes? That's all this comes down to. If he wants to, I can't imagine Kansas City's not going to be willing to give him $18 million a year. One of the other things I looked at when I was working on my article is where the Chiefs stand in salary cap. Now, obviously, Creed's is going to change where they are next year, but Mahomes has a $66 million number next year. He's not going to be playing on that. You have Chris Jones, who has another roster bonus, just like Mahomes does. They have the ability to make room if they want to and they need to. So I do think that this is a scenario where if they want to do a deal with Trey and Trey's willing to take the same deal that Creed took, I think that they could get it done. And Trey's about in the same boat that Creed is, where you're not going to lose much salary cap this year. You may lose maybe $500,000 to $1 million this year because Trey doesn't make as much on his base salary this year as Creed would, but that's negligible compared to what you already have salary cap wise. And so I do think that that's possible. The last thing I'll say on Bolton really quick is Jeremiah Owusu Koromoa just signed for $12.5 million a year. I would put that about where I would expect Bolton, because you start looking at the linebacker market as I'm doing right now. Roquan Smith, Fred Warner, Tremaine Edmonds are all over $18 million plus. Matt Milano's at 14. I don't see Bolton getting that, and whether or not he'll stay is another question. But the other thing that you have to look at for all this is, what are you going to do next year? Because next year you can start extending McDuffie, and you can start looking at Karlaftis as well.
Yeah, I think that deal for Bolton is pretty much what you're looking at right now. I mean, if you wanted to sign him, I think that's the baseline. I mean, it might cost you a little more than that. I'm not sure. It depends on what Bolton is asking for. But I think that's what if you're the Chiefs, you have to be prepared for what he's worth and what he would ask for. And if you can't pay that, I mean, you signed Drew Tranquill to a multi-year deal for a reason. And that was as insurance that you can't get something done with Nick Bolton. So Chiefs do have a middle linebacker signed for the future. And if that's the case, I mean, you're paying the deal that you have in place with Drew Tranquill, honestly, is starting middle linebacker money. It's just that there's a few guys that are middle linebackers that make a lot of money, and Nick Bolton wants to be one of them. Just a matter, can you afford him?
That's going to be the question. So point blank, Matt, before we wrap this show, and it starts right now, the Chiefs are on the clock right now. What's the first move that happens?
For Tuesday? Or
for any day? Does it happen tonight? Does it happen tomorrow, Matt?
Oh, from a contract standpoint?
No, I'm talking about cut downs. Like, what's the first thing the Chiefs do now to move forward?
Yeah. Honestly, it's watching film from tonight. I mean, you kind of hit on it, which is that you've got a few days here. You don't have to run to any decisions. So that's a great thing about the way that the deadlines are cut and set now, that you don't play on a Thursday and you're cutting guys on Saturday. You've got a few more days. That's, I think, a really big advantage. So it does give you time to go over the tape from tonight, to make your final decisions, make sure that you're very comfortable with the 53 that you have set. No doubt in my mind, Chiefs had a 53-player roster up on their board, Brett Veach's office before the game tonight. Question's going to be if any of those names change. I'm not certain that there was anything tonight that really struck me as probably changing their outlook. But then what happens next? Well, you kind of alluded to it earlier. Also, I mean, if you're the Chiefs and you've got a couple of guys that you're on the fence about as far as making your 53, and you feel like that there's some holes, whether it's depth on the O-line, depth at defensive line, and especially edge, cornerback, you are looking across the league and you are calling some of your friends around the league and saying, who are you cutting? Who are you releasing? You're watching their tape from Thursday night to see who are players that might be on the fence. And if you can find a match, if you can find a player that's going to get cut from another team that you can't get a waiver claim in on, maybe you make a deal. I mean, that's exactly what happened with Parker Ingram and Traverse Ward a few years ago. It was two players who were going to get cut by their individual teams, and they made a trade. That's what you're looking for. And that's people ask, well, why wait to make moves? Well, why rush it? You've got the time. Take the time, make the evaluations to make sure you're right. If you're the Chiefs, you've got practice on Monday and Tuesday. You want to get somebody hurt and practice on Monday or Tuesday. You don't want to have just released the guy that you need now on Saturday. So take the time. Don't rush through anything. I'd be very surprised if we hear a lot, unless the Chiefs are making a trade, unless there's something of that nature that pops up over the next 72 hours. I think we're going to hear about most of the moves, moves Tuesday. I'll be interested also to see if the Chiefs do move practice, because right now they're scheduled to be on the practice field at 1:20, I believe, on Tuesday afternoon. And that would take them right up to the 3:00 deadline. So don't know if they want to have a guy that you're getting ready to wave on the practice field, turning an ankle at 2:35. So we'll see if they maybe move that into the morning. Never know. But yeah, I mean, this is going to be a long weekend for Brett Veach and his entire personnel staff, because they are going to be doing exactly that. They're going to be looking over the film from tonight for their own team. They're going to be looking at every other team around the league, looking for guys that might become available, working the phones, working the text, trying to see if there's maybe a deal to be made out there.
Really quick, Matt, I'm going to put you on the spot. Who's your 53rd guy on this roster?
Ooh, the actual absolute 50th thirdest.
Yep.
Man, I would probably say it's a top. If you're going to go with a veteran, I'm going to say it's Deion Bush, and I think on the other side, CJ Henson. I mean, that's it. To me, it's coming down on the offensive side. You know, if it's a fourth running back, fourth tight end, 10th offensive lineman, and I think Irv Smith is probably the 54th person on this team right now. Just that close, but yeah, I think it's pretty clear that the Chiefs look like they're going with 3, tight ends for now. We'll see what happens, but that's my gut, is that they're going with 3. But it's, hey, if they felt like they needed to keep a fourth running back, where do you take it from? I think it's the offensive line. So that's one part of it. But I think on Bush, I could also see it going the other direction. If they keep a 6th corner, it's going to be somebody else is going to be the 53rd. But those are the toughest decisions that I see. I mean, I think the depth chart by and large at each position is pretty ironed out, and not, I don't think it's changed a lot tonight. But it's the just number, what do you keep at each position group, that I think is what's going to be keeping Brett Veach and his staff busy the next couple of days.
It's going to take a lot, folks. Make sure you're with us. Hold tight. These changes are coming. We'll have breaking news for you when it happens. Anything off the top, maybe a trade, we will find it. If you want all the information, make sure you check out Chiefs Digest, where Matt puts all of his work both here on the YouTube platform and on ChiefsDigest.com. Matt, thanks for your time tonight.
Absolute pleasure, guys. Take care, everybody.
Have a good one, folks. We'll be back when something happens. Thanks for being with us tonight live again. And thanks for the misspellings and the understanding for that. Have a great evening, and we'll talk to you as soon as something happens. Have a good one. We'll talk to you then.